In 1984, New Line Cinema released A Nightmare on Elm Street, a low-budget horror movie that no one expected to do anything at the box office but became a smash hit and created one of the most iconic villains in the history of cinema. Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger just became this unstoppable, powerful monster, and the cinema loved him, and it grew so much that it had 6 additional films. To this day, as much as they have tried, no one can really replicate the same power, the same charisma that Robert Englund put into the character of Freddy Krueger. Nightmare on Elm Street was just an original story that everyone loved. But something went wrong. From Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 2, and 3, something changed about the character of Freddy Krueger. But let's be honest about this. As amazing as the first one was, and okay as the second one, 3 is where things went off the rails real quick. They made serious mistakes in part 3, which continued on throughout the rest of the franchise. Not only did they make mistakes, but some of the story plots just don't add up, and I want to talk about that.
You are the last of the Elm Street children.
These are the last of the Elm Street children. Really? Why? Why did they decide in part 3 that these were going to be the last children? Could it possibly be that they said, okay, we've had enough of Freddy, we want to put him to bed? But because of the success of 3, it grew and grew even more? That's possible. But I say here that this was a mistake. At the beginning of part 3, in the middle of Kristen's nightmare, she runs into a room where there are children's bodies hung up. And I have to ask myself, are these some of the children that Freddy wiped out? And if that's the case, why? Why didn't they decide to make more stories? Why give us these are the last of the Elm Street children when there was so much more obviously to tell? There was a lot more kids that Freddy obviously wiped out, and it would have been interesting to see their dreams and their nightmares. So they gave us Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the last of the Elm Street children. And it was a damn good story, yes it was. And Freddy was dark, he was vicious. But by the end of 3 and the beginning of 4, something had changed. The popularity of Freddy Krueger had become so immense that they decided to mellow him down a little bit to where he became more cartoonish. And that is part of the problem with this Elm Street series. Did fame go to Freddy's head? I've heard stories that there were just too many people out there saying that they made Freddy too scary and they had to tone him down a little bit. Nightmare on Elm Street 4 became what so many would call the MTV sequel. It had entertainment. It was humorous. It was unique. And the kills were definitely interesting. But something definitely did go wrong, because once 4 ended, as popular as part 4 was, and as honestly is one of my favorites out of the series, from that point on, 5, 6, and even Freddy vs. Jason, they weren't great. They weren't like the earlier editions of Freddy Krueger. He wasn't as dark. He was too cartoonish. Freddy became a jokester. But honestly, that wasn't as much of a problem as this was.
Kristen was the last child left of the people who killed Freddy. Maybe Freddy can't get to the new kids unless there's someone to bring them to him.
With the Elm Street kids gone, the only way Freddy can get to his victims now is through Alice. And that is where the story starts having a serious problem. Part 4 was a good idea, good story. Part 5 was very weak. It was okay, don't get me wrong. The bike scene with Dan, Freddy did a nasty thing to that boy. But the bulk of the movie was really weak. It was a slow-moving movie. And then by part 6, nothing. Alice was gone, and the baby Jacob was gone. Nothing. It was like it never happened. What happened to Alice? What happened to the baby Jacob? How did Freddy defeat them? Did she finally wear down and succumb to Freddy? How in the world was Freddy all of a sudden able to wipe out all the children in an entire town and make the parents of Springwood go so mentally off the rails. Part 6 was a train wreck, and what they did to the franchise was just unbelievable. The idea behind Alice wasn't bad. We had this shy girl who's just got so sick and tired of her dad's abuse that she kind of stuck into the dream world, and Freddy uses this to his advantage. But the side effect was that she was gaining all the strength of all his victims. Great story. It really was. But the problem, as I said before, was the fact that there was only so far you could go with this character and the story. And it would have been nice for us to see Freddy either take her out or her find some way to escape him with her son. We know that Freddy was going to keep coming after her. We know that at the end of Part 4 and Part 5, there was plenty of evidence to prove that Freddy was going to come back. And then for them to suddenly go from Part 5 to 6 and Alice doesn't exist anymore, it just feels like a rip-off, cheating us out of a solution or a resolution to a story that needed to be concluded. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments on this. Did you like the Nightmare on Elm Street series? Do you think they made mistakes along the way? And did you have a particular nightmare that you thought was the best out of all of them or the worst? Drop those comments below and let me know. Until the next time, my friends, God bless.